If you've been struggling in the studio lately, if nothing's clicking, if every brushstroke feels overworked, what if I told you that's not proof you're failing, it's proof you're doing it right? I know that sounds backwards. Most painters think struggle means best case, there's something gone wrong or that needs reworking, and that worst case, maybe they've hit their limit or they're just not cut out for this. But what if struggle is actually the most telling sign that you're growing? Today, that's the question I want to tackle. By the end of this video, you're going to see why those frustrating paintings, the ones that make you question everything, are often the ones that set you up for your biggest breakthroughs. And I'm going to show you exactly how to reframe that discomfort so it fuels your growth instead of making you want to throw in the towel. If, as you listen, you find my breakdown to these psychological hurdles helpful and you want to apply it to your studio practice across the board, I've put together a start-to-finish workshop that you can watch on demand right after this video. To save it so you can watch it right after, you can scan the code or click the link in the description. I want to start by showing you that you're not alone in this feeling. So I'm going to take you back to a period in my own painting journey where I worried maybe I would just never hack it. I just had finished a painting that I thought was incredible. Honestly, it was incredible. It was genuinely one of my best. I entered it into a big art competition, absolutely convinced this was going to be my breakout moment. And it didn't even get an honorable mention. Nothing. In fact, this happened to me twice in a 6-month period. Once with an amazing portrait painting that I mentioned just a moment ago, and again at a local plein air competition. After both competitions, I was crushed. For the big portrait competition, I worried, maybe I just didn't have what it took. Maybe I missed something about the painting that the judges were looking for because I didn't go to art school. And honestly, I started wondering if maybe that would always hold me back and I was as good as I was ever going to get without having that art school training, without gallery recognition, without having a lot of friends in the in crowd as a professional artist. And the plein air competition, well, this one, I knew my piece was good, at least compared to the competition, and felt really convinced that the judge, this local artist who was known for being a big fish in a small pond, didn't recognize me because he simply wanted to award his own students and was never going to award another professional who was an outsider to his circle. But here's what I didn't realize in that moment. That rejection, it was actually the beginning of the most important growth period of my career so far. Because what happened next was I went back to the studio and I started painting with no competitions or recognition in mind. I just painted to grow. And then 4 years later, I took that exact same portrait composition. I rebuilt it from the ground up using everything I had learned through all that struggle, and it won the Oil Painters of America gold medal. And by the way, that same competition, well, my painting beat out a painting from the judge of the plein air competition. So the difference between the first competitions and the OPA wasn't that I magically got more talented overnight. The difference was that I learned to recognize struggle for what it actually is. Evidence that you're expanding your capacity. Let me explain a bit more about what I mean by sharing something that completely changed how I think about this. So a few weeks ago, I was scrolling TikTok and I came across a video from Coach Bennett. He's a running coach for Nike. I first found him maybe 15 minutes before through a video posted by this runner who saw him on the sidelines of her marathon run, and she paused to get some encouragement from him and she filmed the interaction. The woman, the runner, she was in that hellish part of the marathon. I wouldn't know anything about this. I am not a runner and never will be, but I could just feel the pain that she was in. She was clearly in that place where your whole body and mind want to shut down and give up. For me, this happens like 3 minutes into a run, but I know that for her, she had been here for hours. She told him, "I'm so tired," and she started to tear up as she said it. And this man lifted her up in such a caring, inspiring way. He gave her exactly the boost that she needed. Well, I suppose I can't speak for her, but it really seemed like it was what she was needing. He explained that part of the reason she signed up was for this part, the hard part. He said, when you get to this part, it's not proof that you did something wrong, it's proof that you did something right. And he said it in this way that conveyed that he was clearly so proud of her. He said, "You're here at a world major. and you're doing it. He encouraged her to give herself the grace to deal with those difficult feelings. He said having those feelings was all right. And then he gave her an immediate next step, saying that her next water station was just around the corner. And he sent her off. I must have watched this video 6 times before I searched for who this man is, because it was just so moving. And I came upon this video from him next. This was one of his own videos. He was out on what was supposed to be an easy run, but it just wasn't turning out that way. He was struggling. His body was tired and every step felt hard. And instead of beating himself up about it, he had this realization. The fact that he was out there struggling so much said so much about him. He wouldn't be feeling that struggle in that moment if he didn't have a hell of a lot of grit. The discomfort was proof that he was pushing his limits, not proof that he was failing. And suddenly, by reframing the struggle in that way, he was able to enjoy it. And he stuck with this run that he wanted to quit early. Now, here's how this translates, I think, to painting. See, when runners train hard, they get physically fatigued. That's how you know the muscles are breaking down so they can rebuild stronger. For painters, that physical fatigue shows up more as cognitive discomfort. That's your brain expanding its capacity. But there was something beyond that that clicked for me too. That struggle, it's actually a rare opportunity. See, when we're in the studio and everything goes smoothly, it probably means that we are squarely in our comfort zone doing nothing new, aka not growing. We're just entrenching our current habits, our existing muscle memory. Only when something goes wrong do we typically disrupt that pattern and start to think about what we can do differently. And only through doing something different do we actually grow. It occurred to me then that the moment of struggle is actually like this exciting door opening for us. We just have to think of it that way. So when you're painting and nothing's working, when you're trying to nail a certain edge quality or figure out a color relationship that just feels off, that's not failure. That's your brain literally creating new rules for what does and does not work on your canvas. You're integrating new skills. You're pushing past your current threshold. And here's what I've seen over and over again with the painters that I work with. Those frustrating paintings, the ones where they really struggled, those are almost always the ones that come right before a massive visible leap forward. It's like your system is recalibrating before everything suddenly clicks. So how do you actually use this information? How do you reframe struggle in the moment when you're standing at your easel feeling like everything you touch turns to mud? Well, here are 3 mindset shifts that have really been game changers for me. First, don't label it as failure, label it as feedback. Every, quote, bad painting is showing you exactly where you need to grow. That edge that didn't work, that color that fell flat, the composition that feels awkward, those aren't mistakes. They are your personalized curriculum. They are telling you precisely what skill you need to be practicing. Second, your worst paintings are often your biggest teachers. I can't tell you how often I've had a real breakthrough painting, and when I look back, right before it was one where I absolutely struggled. The rough paintings often predict the breakthroughs when you have the right system in place and the right support in place to help you turn that into something productive. Those struggles are doing the heavy lifting of pushing you past your current limit. Think about it like this. If I told you that every time you made a messy, frustrating painting, it meant you were one painting closer to your next award winner, would you still be so hard on yourself about it? Because that's probably what you're doing right now. Third, you don't get intuition without mileage. All those painters you admire, the ones who seem to effortlessly know exactly where to put a brushstroke or have this incredible intuitive sense for color, they got there by painting through the struggle hundreds of times. There is no shortcut to developing that kind of intuition. You have to log the hours, the brush miles, and a lot of those hours are gonna feel uncomfortable. But here's the thing my students often don't realize. They're usually hitting those plateaus, those frustrating periods, right before they have the push they need to integrate everything they've been working on. It's like your system needs time to process all the new information before it becomes automatic. And that processing period is what feels like the struggle. So next time you're in that frustrated place in front of the easel, when you're wondering if you're cut out for this, when you're tempted to just pack it in for the day, I want you to pause and remind yourself, this discomfort is your painter's toolkit getting stronger. And not only that, but that struggle is a really exciting opportunity. It is that open door that you just need to step through in order to actually change what you're doing and grow. This is what growth actually feels like. It doesn't feel like smooth, linear progress. It maybe does when you're in that beginner stage and there's so much to absorb and digest that you kind of can't help but getting better painting after painting in a linear way. But once you're really in it, once you've got the foundations down, improving feels messy and uncertain and sometimes downright uncomfortable. And that's exactly how you know it's working. You know what's interesting? When I think about dancing, which is something I'm really passionate about whenever I'm outside the art studio, I never question whether I'm improving when I'm sore after a hard practice session. I don't stand there thinking, oh no, my legs hurt, I must be getting worse at dancing. I think, yes, I trained something new, I'm getting stronger. Painting is the exact same thing. That cognitive soreness, that struggle, it means that you're training something new, that your artistic capacity is expanding. So if this is what you needed to hear today, drop a comment below. Let's normalize this conversation around struggle, because I promise you, every single painter you admire has been exactly where you are now. And listen, if you want help turning that frustration that we've been talking about into actual tangible progress, I want to remind you to check out my free mini workshop on mindset for oil painters. It's going to walk you through exactly how to set up your studio practice so those struggles become your greatest teachers instead of reasons to quit. I'll go ahead and put that code to scan back up on screen, and of course, the link is in the description. And by the way, if perfectionism is one of those mindset things you really wrestle with, and you're worried that it's holding you back from that breakthrough that you're chasing, you might want to check out this video next. Until next time, happy painting, everybody. And remember, if you're struggling, you're doing it right.